Ty joined us in the middle of it. We knocked on over 400 doors in Flint, including this home in Flint, basically to survey residents and see, was your home ever tested for lead after the crisis became a national story? And if so, how was your home tested? And what was actually supposed to happen, is the residents on the official state testing group. They called this the Sentinel test in Flint. Basically, the state chose originally 650 homes that would be tested repeatedly over a course of 2 years to basically see, are the lead levels improving? This started in 2016. It's gone all the way through this year. So we knocked on all these doors to see had state officials came and tested the wrong way. But we found out actually, the state was supposed to leave the test kits for the residents to do the sampling. The state was not supposed to be testing for residents. So there's a lot of things here, but to really just like at its baseline, what we found was in at least 31 homes, state officials basically cooked the data. They tested the wrong way. They let the water run, in some cases, for 10 to 15 minutes. And by doing so, you're basically flushing the lead out. So when you put the sample bottle in, voila, this home has no lead. So that story is up on Status Quo's Medium page. Jen will put it in the description box. And so far, we've had some pretty good traction on it. Congressman Ro Khanna has called for an investigation, as has Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. So now that you guys kind of know the basics, I knocked on your door, which has no soliciting. So you probably were like, who are these people? What are they selling us? So I just kind of want to start. You're 35. You've lived in Flint your entire life. And for the most part, before 2014, when they switched the water, correct me if I'm wrong, you've never really had major health problems.
No, never. Nothing out of the ordinary. Just was healthy until then.
Okay, so they switched the water April 2014, and after, the state was saying no problem, even though people are complaining, nosebleeds, hair loss, rashes, all this stuff. After April 2014, when is the first time you started experiencing symptoms of anything?
Not like right after the switch, but a few months. Like I started getting tired and just all around just not feeling good. Like my skin did itch and stuff. My husband has the same issues. Like his skin he takes showers every day, and his skin just gets really itchy and irritated. So probably a few months, but not too much longer after the switch. Which when they decided they were going to do the switch, I'm like, that's not a good idea. So.
You didn't think it was a good idea because of the Flint River?
Yeah, I grew up here. You hear about the Flint River, it's nasty. I wouldn't even let my kids swim in it.
So you started feeling tired, run down, and around like winter of 2015, you got a visit from a state official. Tell me about that.
He knocked on the door, which, you can see my sign outside, no soliciting, like, pretty much everybody, don't knock on my door. And he's like, no, I'm here at the state of Michigan. I need to test your water. And I was like, okay. And like he just came in and was telling me all about it. And I was like, okay. And he's asked me if my water smelled different or if I noticed anything. I was like, no, not that I can tell. So, and then he turned on the water, let it run. And then he put his bottle underneath there. And he's like, okay, well, you're going to get some more bottles. I'll be back. This is how you do it.
And how long would you say he let it run before he put the sample bottle in?
Oh, it was a good minute. He just let it run. I was like, okay. And then he said that's how you do it.
Did he say was he explaining we let the water run first because, or it just kind of like that's what he did?
That's just what he did. And he's just like, that's how you test. That's how you do it. Like, turn on the faucet, put your sample under. He didn't say the things that you get from Quora says don't run your water for 6 hours, blah, blah, blah. And he didn't even ask me if, we'd flushed our toilets, used the water, did anything. I was, you see, I got 3 kids. Like, they're turning on the faucet every minute or going to the bathroom. So, probably when he got here, it's been used. So.
And I'm assuming, as a resident, your first thought well, you might not trust the state for obvious reasons, but you would think like, oh, they're coming in, so that's good. Like they're taking care of the issue. So did you ever wonder like the way he was doing it? Did you ever think like,
No, I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, okay, they're testing it. Let's see. And he said they would mail the results, which they did. And the reason why I don't have them is because I just threw them away because it said nothing detected. You're fine. I was like, okay, we're good over here. We can drink the water. Like, it's not like the other side of town where it's coming out yellow or brown or nothing. Then I was like, no, we'll be fine. So we just kept drinking it. Like, plus, right now, the sink that we have now wasn't the one that we had when they got here. It was one where you couldn't put a filter on it. So,
why that's so important? So you might think like, all right, they ran it for a minute, whatever. We have in our story plumbers on the record, Aaron Brockovich on the record, a lot of people on the record. If you let the water run even for 30 seconds, you could be flushing out sizable quantities of lead, of copper, of other heavy metals, because a lot of the lead is actually from the internal house plumbing. It's from the internal fixtures. So when you're letting the water run for that long, you could be actually flushing away the worst of it in that 30 seconds to a minute. I mean, we've had some people that said they ran it for 10 minutes before taking the sample. All right, so he ran your water for a minute, and then you might have not known, but you were part of the official state focus group. They called it the Sentinel Group. And this was the very focus group of homes that Governor Snyder and the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, they used these homes on the Sentinel program to say Flint's overall lead levels are lowering and then ultimately falling below the EPA's regulatory level of 15 parts per billion. So they used these homes basically as the measuring stick, declaring water restored, as Governor Snyder said in April. And it was these homes, these Sentinel homes, that they cited to shut down the free water stations that were around the city, where residents like Amanda over the last few years can go and get bottled water. They cited other independent tests as well, but the main test was the homes like Amanda that were on the program. And those Sentinel homes, number one, he was not supposed to be testing your water for you, which you probably didn't know. They were supposed to drop it off for the residents to do it. And number two, part of the problem is he illegally tested your water, but you were going to be the one testing after that. So how many times did you test after that yourself?
Like you said, I think they were supposed to drop the bottles off, but they never did. You'd have to go to the firehouse, which lays down off of, I believe that's Dort, maybe, over there. Like, you'd have to go pick them up with your case of water that you got. You'd pick up a bottle, and then Core would come back and pick up your sample that was sitting out there.
So when you tested it yourself after he left,
the exact same thing that he did. Just turn the water on, and I probably forgot the water was running for a minute, and then just threw the bottle under there, put the cap on, set it outside.
and he told you, his words were, you're going to do it exactly the way I do it.
Yeah, you just do it exactly the same way I did it. When you get your bottle, I'm like, okay, I didn't think nothing of it, and just turn the water on. Probably went, poured a bowl of cereal, and then came back and put the water in and took it outside.
So I want to be clear, because we're not doctors, so like I'm not drawing cause and effect. I don't know exactly what has caused her cancer, which we're about to get into. But what I do know is she was not sick before April 2014. And what we do know is you started having real bad fatigue and other things. So tell me about, you started feeling real tired, and what other symptoms?
I was really tired. I had really bad headaches. I had to go see a neurologist, and I think it was 2015, like end of 2014, early 2015, I started seeing a neurologist, and, they were testing my blood and stuff, did the thyroid test. Nothing ever came with thyroid until later in 2015, early 2016, when they...
But the important thing is, because he told you, because the results came back no lead, you kept drinking.
Yeah, until we got the sink fixed. The free plumbers came in, and we were able to get on the list to get the sink fixed because we couldn't put a filter on it, and we had a zero pitcher, but it takes up. It sounds so lazy, but it takes a long time to cook any type of food, and for 3 kids, time is like I'm hungry now. So I was like, screw it, just turn on the water, and it came back fine. Like my husband said, it came back fine. We were cooking with it, drinking it, doing everything. And we still had bottled water to drink, but I'm not gonna sit here and keep open up bottled water when I just turn on the tap if it was fine.
Right. How long would you say you went back to drinking it after they told you it was fine? Like how long did you keep drinking?
I was still drinking it. Like probably even the neighbor lady was probably still drinking it. Like she'll even tell you today that it's still fine. There's nothing wrong with the water, because over here nothing ever came back like high lead, like we had a copper count, but it wasn't within like a horrible limit or something, which like, they're talking about lead but not copper. So
but the point is you went back and you drank it basically for months, a year
until they came in and fixed the plumbing, and then we were able to fit a filter on it.
Right. And who knows, like if they would have tested the right way, maybe your home didn't have high levels of lead. We don't know. But what we do know is if you run the water, even for 30 seconds to a minute, it's going to artificially lower it, which, by the way, the EPA told us that. Aaron Brockovich told us that. Plumbers told us that. Many, many people told us, and research tells you that. Actually, Washington's environmental agency, Washington, D.C.'s agency, did a 10-minute flushing study to see how much flushing lowers lead levels. They got homes with over 300 parts per billion of lead. 300 parts per billion of lead is a lot of lead, like hazardous. So they chose homes with over 300 parts per billion. They ran the water for 10 minutes, and the average lead result was 13 parts per billion. So it went from 300 down to 13. Okay, so you're feeling tired, migraines. You were telling me heart palpitations too?
Yeah, my heart would, I never had any heart issues ever. I know what heart issues are. I have a little brother that has one, and it's just nothing. Just my heart kept beating really fast, and I couldn't, it seems like when your wind would just kick out of you, and I was like, oh. And then, I don't know, I think it was the end of 2015, early 2016, I had to go to the hospital because I thought I was having a heart attack. Come to find out, no, you're got a thyroid issue. There's, a big, huge nodule on your right side, so they're like, you're going to have to go get that biopsied. And I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? I never had any thyroid issues or nothing. Never, I'd go get regular blood work done because of my headaches. And, that came back some weird pseudo tumor of some sort, too much fluid. And I was like, what? I've never had any issues ever. Not with migraines, not with being tired or having my heart, not high blood pressure, nothing ever.
Were you working during this time?
Yeah. I was doing bookkeeping. I don't do that. I don't do that no more. It's too much work, too much math.
Okay, so basically, you start experiencing these things with your thyroid problems, and I believe soon after that there was something they found something on your kidney as well.
Yeah, it was about the same time. After they seen the nodule, then they sent you in for a whole body scan because they were like, well, thyroid just doesn't pop up. Maybe it started somewhere else. And they're like, maybe it started from your kidneys or, something. And they did. And they seen some little thing on my kidney, but they just went and wanted to cure what they could cure first, which the easier part is the thyroid. Take them out and call it a day. But I ended up with complications during surgery. So I took one and not the other.
One of the thyroid lobes?
Thyroid. They did a partial thyroidectomy, so they took out just the one that was cancerous at the time. So
the other one's still in there?
Yeah, still in there, I'm not trying to be funny, but trying to kill me every day. So basically,
in a span of, it sounds like you started having health problems 6 months to a year after the water switch.
Yeah, because we moved in here in 2014. But we lived in this neighborhood 8-9 years. I've lived in this neighborhood my whole life. But when me and my husband got together, we've been in this neighborhood since. We've been married 12, 13 years now. So,
and it seems that it went from a thyroid issue, then kidney spots, to then thyroid cancer. And you never in your mind thought, did you ever in your mind think it could have been the water or it could have been?
No, I didn't think any. I was like, no. Well, I mean, there's no family history of that type of cancer. I mean, there's tank cancer, men cancer, and no, not breast cancer, just that cancer. Like
Which cancer?
prostate cancer. Both my grandpas died of that. So it's like, nothing like that. Both my brothers are healthy and fine, and nothing wrong with them. So there was nothing wrong with my dad. He doesn't have a thyroid issue. And my mom had just passed away from dementia. So, I mean, other than that, there's nothing like no thyroid issues or, cancers like that.
So the test that the state official took in your home where he let the water run for a minute, that came back no lead.
No lead.
Did you get results for the test that you sent in?
Yeah, both, like the ones I did, nothing. But it did come back high in copper, but again, we're just like, what does that mean? Like, they don't really explain it to you. Like, they'll explain to you lead, like, if it comes back lead, blah, blah, blah. But copper, we're just like, what? Nah, okay. Like, we didn't think nothing of it. But that's why we just, like, threw it away. We didn't think we're keeping it or nothing. We're just like, oh, it's just another piece of paperwork to hold on to. Like, no lead. Who cares? Like, our house is fine. Which, like, when I tell people when they move into this neighborhood, I'm like, oh, we never tested high for lead. And then I would feel bad. Now I'm like, oh, maybe I just lied.
And do you think the majority of residents in Flint, I mean, you went to college, Flint's mostly poor. Do you think the majority of residents would know, A, that state officials weren't supposed to be taking the water samples for them, or that they weren't supposed to be, it's called flushing. When you run the water like that before you take the sample, it's called flushing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not dumb by any means at all. Like, we make, 43,000 a year. So it's, I think other people, like the older people down the street or something, we just didn't know. Like, they were not supposed to come in your house. So, and at the time, I'm just like, oh, it's state official. Like, I probably should let them take the sample they need so they can be done with it.
And also, as I was reporting this story, I asked you to try and get your paperwork back. And it seems like from your exchanges with them, they weren't in such a hurry to send you that paperwork.
No, I told them I needed it for my doctor, which, like, my doctor he wanted to look at it and see, but they wouldn't. I gave you everything they gave me, and they never get back hold of me. And I emailed them several times without them emailing me back. So.
But on the phone, he told you, yeah, we'll send it back.
Yeah, he said on the phone, and that email I gave you, he said, yeah, I'm going to look into it, and I'll get it back to you. Because he did find my house, and what he told me on the phone was really weird, because he's like, oh, it said, he's read off one of the samples. He's like, there's lead. I was like, what? And I was like, how is there lead? Like, I never got any one of those things. Never said lead. And he's like, he said copper then lead. And I was like, what? He's like 0 point something, which, like, wasn't enough, like, where people are getting, like, the high numbers. It was, like, none. I was like, what? That was, like, really weird phone conversation. And, like, when I said what, he's like, okay, I'll get back to you. I'll email it to you or mail it to you. And I was like, okay. And then I had kept asking him about it. And I was like, I really need this for my doctor, and nothing.
And in light of our reporting, which, by the way, we found at least 31 homes this happened in, where 17 of those 31 homes, officials came in and ran the water and took the samples themselves. 14 others told us that the officials told them to do it, so they flushed. And you had both. You had they did it, and they told you to do it. But what do you think now? Are you kind of thinking that who knows how you originally got sick, but are you worried that you drank that water much longer and you don't know what the actual lead levels were here?
I mean, it's like, I almost want to cry, but it's like I let my kids drink it, and I drank it, my husband drank it. I don't mean to cry, but I don't know. Like, could I have not have gotten sick if I did it the right way, if I just paid for the sink myself, or I don't know.
And I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. It's kind of like you can't work anymore. You've been basically housebound, and you recently, welcome to America, they kicked you off your health insurance because your husband makes too much. So right now you're not really getting treatment because you can't afford it.
Can't afford nothing. I can afford to pay my water bills so they don't come shut us off. I can pay for groceries and our car that we need to get back and forth to work, but I can't. It's not, the healthcare system just sucks. I could leave my husband and get healthcare, but I couldn't. They're gonna do it.
And what's really, the bottom line is, like, a lot of residents have actually said when they've gone to doctors, whether in Flint or surrounding areas, the doctors kind of, I don't want to say poo-pooed it, but basically said, well, we don't know if that's because of the lead, and didn't always draw a cause and effect between, like, the lead that residents consumed and issues. But I mean, going around, literally, we couldn't go a block or two without somebody that, like, couple homes where somebody just died, not always old people, like people in their 40s and their 50s. We couldn't go. There were a lot of homes. There were a lot of blocks where, I mean, you had 40-year-old, 30-year-old women or people with cancers, autoimmune issues, this and that. And it's not like you're getting Medicare for all. It's not like you're getting, money came from Congress for Flint, but where is it really going? Because you have residents like you who are sick, and you're basically, because your husband technically makes too much. What do you have, like a $13,000 deductible you have to meet?
$13,000 deductible I have to meet before the insurance will pick up anything. So I have health care, so I don't get penalized, but I don't have health care that I can actually use.
So basically right now, you're kind of think you're in remission, but because you can't get blood work.
I just stopped going to treatment, stopped going to doctors. Like, I'm just... It's kind of like you're stuck in limbo. You don't know what's wrong with you. I'm still really tired. Like, some days I'm tired to where I can't do nothing. Like, I'll probably be like Sleeping Beauty, just sleeping all day. And then other days I'll be like, oh, I'm full of energy. I got this. I can do it today. And then other days back to like, oh, I'm so sick. I can't eat nothing. I can't,
And you got 3 kids, and your husband has had to take extra shifts and extra work because you can't work.
Yeah, he found a better job at the beginning of this year. He went back to an old job to be kitchen manager where he makes more money to be able to, where I don't have to work. So
basically, but you are working. You have 3 kids. So while you're sick, you have to basically, while he's at work.
While he's at work, I'm taking care of them, taking them to and from school, and make sure their homework's done. Like, I was always at home mom, but I had like a side job that I would do to bring in some sort of money, but I can't really do that.
And when you see the governor in April, he's saying, well, our data shows that the water levels are now, quote, restored. He shut down the water pods that I believe you and other residents were depending on. Do you have time to go sit in line at a church for 3 to 5 hours for, I think they're giving like 2 or 3 cases of water?
No, I don't. I couldn't sit in the line for 3 to 5 hours the way I felt. Like, when they shut down the pods, my uncle had made sure, like, we got a few cases of water, but you got 3 kids and a husband and you drinking the bottled water. I couldn't. My brother sat in that line and he ran out of gas in the line waiting for water for him and my dad and their kids. So.
And those cases go quick if you have 3 kids, cats, dogs.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I don't even give my dog I wasn't giving her bottled water. I was giving her the filtered water when we got it. But like, now she's sick, so.
Let me ask you a question, because me, as a journalist, getting this response from the state, I was pretty outraged, but I could only imagine for you. So you read the story. When the governor's office and when the environmental agency says that, oh, no, these residents you spoke to, they're just confused. They're confused as to who came in their home, which agencies it was. They're confused on what kind of testing it was. and they're confused on what they saw. Are you confused?
No, I'm of sound mind. I know who came in my house and when they came in my house because I have a no soliciting sign. So you have to tell me who you are before I'll either step on the porch or let you in my house. So when he came to my house, he's like, I'm with the, Michigan Environmental Agency, I believe, or DEQ or whatever it was. And he's like, I'm here to test your water. We've been all over this block. And even then, my old neighbor said, like, they came over, tested her water, and, like, they even went to my dad's house. So it's like, I'm pretty sure 3 families can't all be confused all at the same time who came in. Like, we know who Core is. We know who because Core didn't try to come in your house unless they wanted to see your filter the first time they came in to make sure they get you the right filters. But
well, it's interesting you say that because we actually came across a lot of residents where Core was the one who came in and did it and ran their water and then took the sample. But basically, Core was Flint residents that were hired by the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality to go around, apply water filters, I guess make sure your filter was on right, make sure you had enough bottled water. But they also were collecting samples in Sentinel homes. I just want to remind you, these homes were on the official state study. The state, in conjunction with the EPA, chose homes like Amanda's, who the hell knows why, which the determination of which homes is a whole separate story because that had its own problems. But these homes were basically the focus group of Flint has 40,000 homes. So these homes were the focus group that the state of Michigan used to basically say Flint is now meeting the EPA regulation for lead again. Because at one point it was much higher than 15 parts per billion, which is the official level where they actually take action. 15 parts per billion is pretty arbitrary in the first place. There's 0 lead is in terms of health. You shouldn't have any lead in your water, but the EPA sets it at 15 parts per billion, not for public health. It's a corrosion control level. So what I'm getting at is if they came in your home and did it that way and then told you do it this way, who the hell knows how many homes this was done in? And also, who knows what the actual lead levels are in your home and other people. I mean, I would love if they came in and retested it and did it the right way and they found it at 0. Great. Our work is done. At least we know. But how do you know if they did it in a way that will flush out the highest quantities of lead?
I haven't replaced any pipes over here. I mean, I think they started back that way more towards the end of April, but nothing over here has been replaced. So, I mean, if they study these houses, they're probably like, oh, they can last a while without new pipes. So, yeah, I really think they came over here because the newer part, these are newer houses built in 57, 55, I think, area, compared to the other side of town where it's it's not about race thing. There's, we're pretty mixed here, but granted, most of these people around here are old GM retirees.
Do you think that if they were doing this in a lot of other places, I mean, we found that they did this in dozens of homes, but again, we only knocked on 400 doors. We didn't have the funding to do that much more. But do you basically think they did this in a way where, all right, run the water, get the numbers, let's move on, sweep this under the rug?
Yeah, be done with it, get it off the news. I don't want to hear about it no more. People don't want to hear about Flint no more. They're just oh, okay, it's old, it's dead, it's done, it's tired. Let's find something else to do. So that way the governor can be oh, I can end my last few years in peace and, nothing ever happened to him. I mean, he probably wouldn't have came in here and drunk the water himself.
Let me ask you a question. I mean, this is a governor that in 2016, when this all became a national story, he said the buck stops with me and I'll fix it. Well, if his environmental agency was going into people's homes, illegally testing, manipulating data, do you think he should have some accountability or punishment?
Yeah, he should probably have been the first one to probably resign or be oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Even though he does say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, you don't really look like you truly mean that. You're just oh, let Flint die and explode and do whatever it's gonna do. Let's just be done with Flint. Like, so yeah, he should have been the first one to be like, okay, resign. Like, I screwed up, but
you said in the story that the government's a joke, and they basically have just left people to die. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory, but do you, I mean, the governor's election is Tuesday. Do you have any faith that, I mean, you're sick, bottom line, so it's not like you could rewind and not be sick, but do you think there's any hope? Because let me tell you, as a journalist who has stayed on this story, it's hard to get other media to care about Flint. Very hard. So I could only imagine if you can't get the media to focus on this, because it's not Trump, it's not Russia, it's not sexy enough. It's hard to get politicians to do the right thing then.
I mean, they'll use it in their commercials and stuff, like, oh, we're going to go in and fix Flint or whatever they say they're going to do, but now you're really going to do that? Or, again, Flint's just going to be like, oh, they'll be all right. They don't really, no one's died yet today, but technically I'm dying every single day. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't have any health care. I don't, I got sick, not because, I don't know why I got sick, but, maybe if I wasn't so naive to the testing and stuff.
Well, I think what you just said is the key, because there's no way for us to sit here and say, like, yeah, you drank the lead water and it caused cancer in your thyroid or spots on your kidney. A lot of experts will say, well, in testing on animals, definitely lead in the water can cause thyroid problems or kidney problems, but in humans, there's not as much testing. But what we do know is you're a healthy, early 30-something-year-old for your whole life, basically. And then after drinking this water, you started getting serious thyroid complications. And most importantly, you kept drinking the water because they told you your test was fine.
Yeah, even though they tell you on the TV, like, don't drink the water. Well, in homes like mine that had a $400 sink with the hose and stuff where you couldn't attach a filter to it, like, how are you supposed to live everyday life just dragging water in and out of your house? Like, where are you supposed to store it? Like, you can't store it out in your garage where mice are going to get at it. So you have to store it in your house. Like, these houses aren't that big, but, I mean, you're storing it everywhere you could at the time. I had, like, stacks and stacks of water. Well, you go through a case of water a day if the kids are just in there drinking it with them and their friends, and you give some to the guinea pig. You got to give some to the cats. Like, this is going to go. 2 cases every day, every other day. Like, you couldn't keep your house stocked full of water. Yeah, some people were probably abusing it and just throwing it around, like, it probably, like, money, where other people were like, oh, I'm just really going to drink it. But I couldn't afford to change my sink. I couldn't afford to change my, all my plumbing because I have to fill a filter on it now.
And when you look back, when you think of this official who came in your home and said, I'm here to test your water, and let it run for a minute, you said.
Yeah, he's in there talking to me. I was probably in the dining room and he was in the kitchen, just sitting there talking to me about how it needs to be done, like what you're supposed to do. And he had it on. And then he finally put the thing underneath there to catch whatever he needed.
So what does that say to you? Just like, let's break this down. Because honestly, I'll tell you what I think. I don't think this agency just, freelanced on their own. I think they knew that this governor wanted those lead levels down. They wanted to cut off these water pods. They wanted to cut funding, and they wanted to move on. That's what they've done. But to you, I mean, these people know the right way to do it. So to you, what does it say to you that a state official that's supposed to be there to protect your health, that you pay for, you pay a salary, who's basically just standing there knowingly doing it the wrong way and jeopardizing your health?
Now I'm just like, oh my gosh, I probably wish I wouldn't have let him in the house, but you got state of Michigan, like, I need to test your water, and you hear it every day, like, there's something wrong with the water, and like, you're like, oh shit, I should probably let him come in, let him test it, Like, I thought he was doing what he was supposed to do. Like, there was nothing out at the time telling you how you're supposed to test your water. You got word from the person that gave you the bottle. Which I think he did end up leaving an extra bottle and said, Core will be around to collect it in a few days. So do it like I did it. And I did. I'm not stupid. I can read directions. I know how to take my medication every day. 1 pill every day with water.
So, to people watching that don't live in Flint, and our audience cares a lot about Flint, you know, because you didn't know about this until I knocked on your door.
No.
You didn't know that they might have done it the wrong way, any of that.
Yeah, like you knocked on my door, and at first I was like, I could see you guys coming up on my security camera. And I was like, what? Who's this? Like, can't people read the sign? Like, obviously it doesn't say no, knocking on my door to ask me questions about my water, but, I think it does say something like, if the water people, please knock. So, but I just then you said something like, I've been to this many homes, and we talked to this many people, and they all have the same story. It's like, oh, what the... F, like, I just couldn't believe it. And then I told my husband, and he's like, yeah, I remember that. I remember them doing that. And I was like, shoot. Like, we were sitting there drinking it the whole time without the filter, like, because you couldn't put a filter on it. You couldn't put a filter anywhere in this house.
Do you find it odd that you reached out to the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality after I had been emailing them quite a lot? They knew I was looking into this exact thing. So do you find it odd that they would not send you paperwork and that they then told you, oh, wait, you did have a little lead? That seems a little odd to me that a resident reaches out several times and you can't send her paperwork, or you say you're going to and then you don't.
Yeah, I've checked all my email, like spam and everything, every day since I talked to you. And I emailed them several times saying, did you get it? Do you have it? My doctor really needs it within a certain amount of time. And nothing back, nothing. It's just weird. It's like code silence. Like, and then like literally after I had emailed him and emailed you back end of June, the city of Flint came around, any house around here that had back bills or anything. I don't even think I owed like $200. I just paid them $100, and they shut us off. And I went downtown, and there's a bunch of people from my neighborhood I noticed, and we're all down there trying to get our water back on for an extra fee for, charge you $75, $100. Like, you have to go pay that money
to use water that you might very well.
Yeah, I went down there with my bald head and just, like, literally it was after I started emailing that guy, I talked to you, and I was emailing him, and, like, all of a sudden, City of Flint was outside my door and shut us off. And I was like, what? Like, we didn't get a shut-off notice, we didn't get a notice, like, they're just...
And I should say, I mean, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but it's not just you. I mean, your child has had learning problems.
Yeah, she's in the 4th grade, but she reads at like maybe a 2nd grade reading level, and she don't have behavioral issues, but she's really, I don't know what the word is. Like, if you weren't here, she'd probably be down here cleaning to, like stuff like. But she has difficulties in school. This is the first year where she's actually getting help and getting good grades. Like, she was failing, she was born in 2008, so she was 4 when this happened. So I sent her to early Head Start. So in their school, still can't use the water fountains, still deemed unsafe to drink. So, like, were they drinking the water at the school?
Was she having any problems as an infant before the water switch?
No, she's perfect. Nothing. There's nothing. The only person that had problems as far as my kids is my son, but he was born that way. Mm-hmm. So there was nothing wrong with her. She was fine. She was doing good. But the year that it switched, and she's had a repeat kindergarten. Now she's in the 4th grade. She's still behind her other peers. Her handwriting, she can't read. I mean, she can read, but she can't read at the same time. I don't know how to explain that. She's just behind. And nobody in my family has that issues unless you were born with that issue. Like, I have a special needs brother. He was born that way because his real parents were not my parents, but he was adopted. He was a crackhead baby. And my son was born with autism. So they were born with stuff like that. She wasn't born with nothing. Nothing was wrong with her. She wasn't deprived of oxygen. She never had any problems. Before she started school and before the water switch, she could do her ABCs, one count, spell. But something happened after the switch. Now I've got her tested, and, she needs help.
So my last question / point is, I mean, where does someone like you go from here? You basically, they've cut off the water pods, so you can't get the water pods. At least you didn't have to wait for 5 hours. I mean, generally you could go there whenever you wanted and get the free water. They're actually paying for less free testing for residents, so residents can't even test as much as they used to. And they're certainly not giving residents Medicare for all, expanded Medicaid.
Just for the kids. The kids can get health insurance, thank God, until they're 21 because, they were poisoned, so they can get it. Doesn't,
But adults, it seems like your only option is divorce. If you want to.
I could divorce my husband if I so choose, and he can pay child support, and I can get health insurance again because I can't get a job. Not on disability or nothing. We don't get food stamps. We don't get nothing. It's his income and his income alone that sustains the family.
And right now, as it stands, you don't know. You don't know if you're in remission. You don't know. You said you're exhausted all day. When we leave, you're probably going to be sleeping most of the day. Not because you're lazy, but because
I'm lazy. Obviously, you can see my house is clean. It's well taken care of, but it's not from me alone. It's my kids had to pick up the slack of taking care of the house and doing their chores. And it's not because I want to sleep all day. I don't enjoy it. I'd rather Netflix in my chair and watch that all day and not miss half the Netflix show that I started, and because I dozed off because I'm too tired. And I literally went to bed last night on a Friday night at 9 o'clock, woke up at 8 o'clock, and I could probably take 3 more naps today. Not because I want to, but because I literally probably have to.
And lastly, because if this story gets out there, I know the state, I know Michigan, I know other governments. They're going to say you're confused, or, oh no, that wasn't part of the official group that we used, even though we've confirmed every resident that we met was on this particular program, the state Sentinel program. There was actually a researcher who did a study, and he found out which homes were on the Sentinel program because, shocker, the state of Michigan was very, very secretive about which homes were on their program, the official focus group. But the bottom line is the state showed up. You thought they were there to help. They tested the wrong way. And who knows what your lead levels were then. And honestly, who knows what they are now.
Right. I was due for blood work back in August. So I haven't got that done. And I haven't got to change my medication. And I think my refills are running out for my thyroid medicine. So I don't know. My thyroid could just be, my last thyroid that's in there could just be going haywire and just, I definitely know that there's something still wrong because my heart still beeps really, really fast, and super sleepy, not too hungry. Just, I could eat 1 meal a day and be fine. So,
what's your message to people watching? Because a lot of people, I think, it's not that they don't care, but if something's not happening in your community, it's not top of mind every day,
Yeah. It just sucks. It seems like nobody cares no more. You don't hear about it no more. They're like, oh, deemed safe, but are we really safe? Are we, is it just sucks. You have to rely on something so stupid as a filter to filter out water that you pay $110 a month for, and there still could be poisoning you or poisoned you, and you don't get any help. You don't.
By the way, those filters go bad pretty quickly,
yeah,
they breed bacteria.
Yeah, I have to, I don't want to sound like an OCD freak, but I have to clean out the filter itself with water from the city that you're supposed to filter out. It just doesn't make sense. It's stupid. You have to add extra steps in your day because the state and the government failed you and all the people here. And it's just it's not fair. It's not, and you can't sell your house, where are you supposed to go? You can't, these houses aren't worth what you paid for them. You can't just.
Assuming that there's not a huge real estate line around the block for these homes?
No, I don't know, I could count how many empty houses are on this block because people just moved out and was just like, psh, I'm done with Flint. I'm going somewhere else where the water's better. My neighbor next door sold her house for less than 20 so they could move out to the country away from Flint. Another neighbor just left their house after living there for 20 years because the city sucks, the government sucks. Like, you can't trust nobody. So you can only trust yourself, which I guess I should have probably done a better job. But you trust what the letter said, and you were fine. You're fine. You're fine. But then all of a sudden, like, you're sick now. Now I have a scar across my neck that my kids, they're not embarrassed of it, but my one daughter, she's younger, and her friends are like, oh, look at your mom's scar. Did she get in a knife fight? Alexis will be like, no, cancer almost killed my mom. And it sucks because she's only 10 and she has to tell, why did your mom have a scar across her neck? Because she got cancer and she almost died. That's not easy for me, not easy for my kids, least of all for my husband. So it just sucks that they did come in your house and make you trust them and then just poisoned you anyways.
Well, we do care, and we spent a lot of time here. Some people ask, like, Jordan, there's a gazillion places with water problems, and there certainly are. And we're definitely going to do our best as we grow here. We just launched our website, actually, like last week, to cover as many as we can. But, we come back and we stay on this and we knock on doors because we don't think it's right for people to just die in silence. Not that you're dying. I hope you're living. But the troubling thing about America, but also the opportunity, most corrupt people, most corrupt agencies, most corrupt governments, they're pretty lazy in their corruption. This was out in the open. This was literally out in the open that they did this. Unfortunately, you don't really have real media or journalism in this country. Has the local media been knocking on your door to ask you about the testing here or those kinds of things?
No, and when a car went through our house, they didn't even show up for that. Like, that was the craziest thing, and they came maybe after someone's like, oh, look at this porch. But no, I haven't seen them for the water. I haven't seen them for, you don't even hear from them no more. You don't even hear about it on the news. So the
point is, as a media company, it's a lot easier to grow when you do Trump 24/7 and Russia and whatever bullshit is going on as I speak right now. But to actually change something, you have to know what the problem is, and the problem is on the ground level in this country. It's not at the top. It is at the top level too. Don't get me wrong, but the problem's at the ground level because the reason this happened in the first place was basically a privatization scheme. They switched to the Flint River just temporarily because they were building a privatized water pipeline. I don't think most of the residents knew that. They didn't sell that in their sales pitch. They said it was to save Flint money. No, it was to build a privatized pipeline so a bunch of Republicans and wealthy people could get wealthier. They also wanted to build that privatized pipeline because you know what you need a lot of water for? Fracking. They wanted that pipeline so they could take water from it and frack because Governor Rick Snyder has pushed fracking more, I don't know about more, but quite a lot here in Michigan. By the way, Michigan has, I believe it's like 1/3 or something like that of the world's fresh water. The world. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the number. So you got some of the purest, freshest water in Michigan, yet people like her, 35. I'm 32.
Yeah, I just turned 35.
Happy birthday. We got to wait at random churches that get enough water donated to open it up. We just covered an event the other night. Judge Mathis, he's a TV judge, literally created they call it a caravan. Obviously, Trump's talking about the caravan. He created basically a line from Detroit to bring donated water here. This is 4.5 years after this happened. Ty said it when we were at one of these lines over the summer. You would think this just happened 3 months ago because there's literally cars lined up for hours to get water because the government has left them to die. I mean, it's that simple. So if you're a real journalist or you're just a real person, you should care about this because let me tell you something. The reason I've always stayed on Flint, and I told the Young Turks this as well when I was there, Flint is the playbook. It's the playbook. If you normalize what happened in Flint. If there's no accountability for what happened in Flint, if basically the governor, the state can just say, oh yeah, the levels are fine now, even though we're finding they basically cooked the numbers, they're going to do it just about everywhere. And I can tell you something, follow the money. There's a reason all of these rich hedge fund people in New York, there's a reason that they are investing so heavily in water. Why is that? Well, could there one day be a shortage of fresh water in this country? Look around. You know what I do every morning, among other things? I just type in water contamination on Google and I press news. There's tons of news stories about this city and this township and this municipality having water contamination, not only from lead, from nuclear waste that's leaking into the water, from arsenic, from now they have PFOAs, paraphenolactic acids, which are basically chemicals that come from non-stick cookware. And by the way, they found that in Michigan, and the governor's been very aggressive on that. Why? Because they're finding it in middle class and upper middle class white homes. They've been very aggressive on that issue, whereas in Flint, for 18 months, they told residents there's nothing to see here. No problem. As they were getting nosebleeds, rashes, hair loss, and worse. So, call me old-fashioned. I think 4.5 years later, these people, you're never going to be made completely whole because you were poisoned. As I'm live, I have people texting me from Flint, hey, I hear you're here, come over. One woman, I won't mention her name, literally just told me she almost died last week via text. That's a 37-year-old woman. So that's why we're here. So we're going to keep reporting on this. We have other people to interview today, tomorrow, and we appreciate it. We'll stay on this. Thank you.